Ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting, and it relates directly to John Durham, William Barr, the Democratic effort to impeach, the fact that there was never any obstruction, there certainly was no collusion, the Mueller probe ended, like every Democratic Party endeavor, in failure, covered up by the media. Politico, well, this is interesting. Before I get to that, The Hill, Trump's approval rating hits highest point in 2 years. President Trump's job approval rating is the highest it's been in 2 years, boosted by voter optimism about the economy, according to the latest Harvard-Harris poll. Now, this isn't the Rasmussen poll, it's Harvard-Harris, so I can understand if it was a Rasmussen poll, and I understand that the aggregate is what you should look at, but the survey found that 48% approve of the job Trump is doing, compared to 52% who say they disapprove. Now, take things into context. Every single major publication, MSNBC, CNN, cable news, Washington Post, New York Times, Hollywood, late night, virtually everyone in media has stated that Trump is going to bring about the end of the universe. And yet, he has a 48% job approval rating in the latest Harvard-Harris poll. That's pretty good. Even if it's just one poll, it's pretty good. I don't really take poll numbers too seriously, but Trump appears to be getting a lift from the economy, with a record 62% approving his approach to employment and 59% approving his handling of the economy. If you look, there's record low unemployment for Black and Latino citizens and also for women across the country. It's either record low or approaching record lows. So, the Democratic Party, without Black and Latino citizens, without women voters, there is no Democratic Party. People are working. People might not like Trump's personality. I know people who don't like Trump's personality, but they say he's a good president. He's a good president. I'll debate anybody on that. He's a great president. I think he's a great president. But the economy is working. When people are working, when people are providing for their families, they're able to live life where they can, find a job. It's very difficult to paint somebody as a monster. Democrats are focusing on the wrong things. They want to impeach Trump now, and the media has been after Trump from day one, and still, he's at 48%. It's pretty good. It's pretty amazing. While only 39% of voters said the country is on the right track, 51% said the economy is heading in the right direction. The media, nobody's going to say the country is on the right track when the media foments division. This is really a media-driven political system. One where the Democratic Party they're not the party of ideas, so that's the worst propaganda spin of all time. Latest propaganda spin regarding Democrats is that they're the party of ideas. No, they're not. They're not the party of ideas. They're not voting in Medicare for all. They're not voting in any Green New Deal legislation. It's a resolution, but they didn't run on a resolution. They ran on Green New Deal legislation. And when you look at people's views on the economy are gradually pushing Trump's numbers up, and his actions, okay. So they have nothing. They have nothing on Trump. Gallup has registered some momentum for Trump recently. So Gallup, you have 48% in the Harvard-Harris, you have 46% in Gallup. So, it's pretty unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable. So it's not just Harvard-Harris. Now, the average is 42.5%. President Jobs' approval rating is at 42.5% in Real Clear Politics average. A Rasmussen study found it at 48. Gallup has him at 46. Harvard has him at 48. But 6 other recent polls found him ranging between 38 and 44. So on the average he's 42.5%. But I mean, the thing with Trump and poll numbers is that you have to take things in context. There has never been a president that has been so despised. There's never been a president so despised by media. Now, I'll give you... I spent 6 minutes on the good, but here's 10 episodes where Trump might have obstructed justice. See, here's an example. Here's an issue where Democrats can't win. None of these, when people say, well, anyone else would have been charged with obstruction. No, they wouldn't have. Conduct involving FBI Director Comey and Flynn. What? So in a private meeting, he said, Flynn's a good man. Now that we fired Flynn, I hope you can see your way clear of letting this go, letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Well, this is according to Comey. Where's the evidence of this conversation? Obstruction of justice is not Comey's fantasy. We have no clue if that happens. So that's number one. You can cross that off. Campaign response to reports about Russian support for Trump. He doesn't have to abide by the U.S. intelligence agency's viewpoints. So that's not obstruction. The president's reaction to continuing Russian investigation. Yeah, why should he be happy? That's not obstruction. You're not preventing them from anything. The president's termination of Comey should have been let go in the very beginning. The appointment, he was insubordinate. The appointment of special counsel and efforts to remove him. The efforts to remove Mueller were not successful, and, it didn't happen. And what we know is that Don McCann says something, and Jeff Sessions' staffer says something, just like Comey said something, and Michael Cohen says something down below on this list. Who cares what other people said? This, gossip from partisan actors or gossip from establishment figures or even his own attorney. It's none of anyone's business. Even if it's under oath, you have no clue. Someone could say, yeah, this happened under oath. If you have no evidence that it happened, how are you going to say this is obstruction? The appointment of special counsel and efforts to remove him. He could have removed Mueller because it was unlawful. The probe was unlawful. But even if you don't think it was an unlawful probe, where was the evidence of a crime Trump committed? So, and the media was on it too. Oh, he is, and of course, at the end of the day, they found there was nothing. There was no reason to have investigated Trump in the very beginning. I'll get to the actual quote from, the actual quote from the Mueller probe completely vindicates Trump. 2 years of nonsense. 2 years of absolute nonsense. And all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is go to CNN and type in insufficient. Sufficient. Or sufficient. So, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, so what? It's not a crime at all. That's meaningless. And Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin, actually met with Vladimir Putin at his home. The evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges. That's all you need to know. Media was saying, oh my God, he totally worked with Russia, he this and that and this. No! If they had done to Trump what they didn't do to Clinton, if they had treated Clinton in the same way they treated Trump, there's no way that Comey wouldn't have charged Clinton. But they treated Trump in that way, and still they couldn't find anything. Among other things, the evidence was not sufficient to charge any campaign official as an unregistered agent of the Russian government or other Russian principal. It was not sufficient to charge criminal campaign finance violations. Furthermore, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. That's all you need to know. This is on page 17 of the Mueller probe. Evidence was not sufficient to charge anyone associated with Trump on anything to do with collusion. So it's pretty much right there. John Durham knows exactly what's going on. John Durham knows what's going on. William Barr knows what's going on. They know that the media, really at the end of the day, the media is powerless to prevent Trump from investigating Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, all of them. They found nothing because there was nothing. Now we have to investigate why they tormented a president. Just because, there's people who hate Trump and there's people who dislike him, and it's like anything goes. You know what? Anything goes. It's like, no, you don't realize that if you don't like Trump, that's the worst avenue to take. They don't get that. When I was on the left, I was like, look, you're falling into a trap. I was telling people, they're like, oh, you're just like Trump. Eventually, I became a Trump supporter, but because he's a good president. And I explained why Bernie supporters should vote Trump 2020 below in the Federalist, in one of my Federalist articles below in the pinned comment. But I started off this segment with the poll numbers because you're not going to stop Trump by focusing on things that make no sense. Democrats don't realize that. They think that the reality their voters live within is the reality all Americans live within. It's not the reality. That is just not the reality at all. Further efforts to have Attorney General take over the investigation. In the early summer, President Trump called Sessions at his home. Do we have the transcript of the conversation? No, we don't. President met privately with Sessions in the Oval Office, asking him to take a look at investigating Clinton. Oh my God, so what? Efforts to have McCann deny the president had ordered him to have the special counsel removed. So what? Removal of Mueller is his right as the president. Mueller is part of the executive branch. Conduct towards Flynn and Manafort. They set up Manafort. They set up Flynn. They got Manafort. Nobody was charged with collusion. Conduct involving Michael Cohen. This is all he said, she said. Why would you trust Cohen? Overarching factual issues. We did not make a traditional prosecution decision about these facts, but the evidence we obtained supports several general statements about the president's conduct. That means nothing. Look. They had to give. I have never seen a political party, even in the days where Comey struck, even in the days where the GOP was, you could see that they were, you could see Republicans were this political party that just tried to adhere to extreme voices and didn't really stand on anything but fear. And this was a while back. interventionist foreign policy, utilizing the flawed research of intelligence officials, you could kind of tell, like, yeah, this is not going to end well for that political party. And it's like Bush managed to not just tarnish, he ended the Republican Party as it was from Reagan and then his father. Then Bush took over after Clinton, and it just wasn't the same after Bush, because they had the media for a second, if you remember. Even Dan Rather was, if you can imagine this, Dan Rather was fired from CBS for a story that wasn't true about Bush. Could you imagine? I mean, that was the world back then. But now it's like, I mean, fake news story after bogus news story. Nothing. No, but there's no one is held responsible. The media is overtly in bed and working for Democrats. And there's not even, what Bush did was he took advantage of a colossal tragedy. Literally, if I say the tragedy, it's like against YouTube policies. But what Democrats have done is they've utilized the media to create a world of their own, and social media to create a world of their own. But they keep on losing and failing because it's not the world we all live in. Clinton was not going to win. She wasn't qualified. I stated that in 2015 in the Hill, the Huffington Post, and Salon. That's below in the pinned comment. You could see my writing there. Clinton lost. Trump never colluded with Russia. That never happened. I stated that when the Mueller probe was first started. After 2 years of an investigation, they found out it was complete and utter nonsense. He never obstructed justice. They're kind of like on the fence regarding that. They're pushing that he obstructed justice, but they're kind of pulling back. They just want to foment as much division and contempt as they can. Now they're going to impeach Trump. There's no reason to impeach him. But they're going to lose at that also. And every time they lose, the media coddles them and creates this world that doesn't exist. It's this fantasy world that just doesn't exist. And now you have Comey, Strzok, Brennan, Clapper, McCabe, all of them. Not going to end well politically. John Durham, William Barr, President Trump, Congressman Nunes was on Fox today talking about how it's just not going to end well. They know what's going on. You have a situation where they are now trying to foment as much division and contempt, knowing with nonsense, knowing that the reality of the situation is going to come into play very soon. People will eventually get indicted. People will eventually get charged. Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, Sally Yates, a whole bunch of people. Whether it's before or after the election, don't know, but Hillary is running again. Oh yes, she's running again. Hillary Clinton is running again. William Barr, John Durham, President Trump, probably, they might not, President Trump knows for sure. William Barr, maybe, who knows? But Trump knows the Clintons, and he knows, I'm pretty sure he knows that she's running again. Clinton, all of this was a re-election campaign strategy, and that started even in the summer of 2016. And nothing to do with national security, nothing to do with protecting America, nothing to do with that. All of this was done to muddy the waters and make everything morally relative, so people could possibly see themselves voting for Clinton yet again. Clinton's running again. She has until October or November. And there was one article that said she could run even after Iowa. And she's running. They're not going to go with Biden. Biden is like a sinking ship, except he's the one that can that's the most viable of all the other sinking ships they have, or ships at the bottom of the ocean. So, they have no candidate even close to even with a national presence. You have Bernie Sanders with a national presence, but you can't be a revolutionary figure when you have already gotten in bed with the people who cheated you. You can't push for a revolution when you've already gotten in bed with people who you want to revolt against. Doesn't work that way. And Biden is just a train wreck. Biden makes Clinton look like a great campaigner. Clinton is a horrible campaigner. So all of this now is a matter of context. John Durham knows that there's really nothing that can stop his investigation. The media can't stop his investigation. President Trump's approval ratings continue to increase despite a unified media presence against him. A unified media onslaught. Nothing they can do to stop him. Now we're going to find out the actual truth. We're going to find out why they utilized the Steele dossier that Clinton purchased, why they utilized a company like CrowdStrike that was outsourced by Democrats. Why, and if you look at my Federalist articles below, they knew in 2016 there was no evidence, but they still investigated. Why? It was obviously set up and frame Trump. And I'll explain also, they'll be charged under the same statute, the U.S. Code 371 statute, that they try to utilize against Trump. Give me your thoughts below. I will be back later on this evening with a live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. If you want to support my voice long term, please go ahead. It's in the pinned comment, my Patreon link. Check out my writing in the Federalist, the Daily Caller, and the Jerusalem Post. Thank you so very much. Trump's approval ratings hit an all-time high, or hit a high, despite everything. And they still want to impeach him. Give me your thoughts. Thank you.